Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 9th, 2024 City Commission meeting. It is so nice to see everybody here from the Oregon City Police Department supporting all the new folks that are coming to us tonight to get sworn in, and thank you all for being here. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Morrill.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you all please stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Item number 3A is probably, since I've been on the commission, one of the favorite things that we get to do. And I would like to ask our two new officers to come forward when Chief Davis calls you, and I'll turn it over to Chief Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. It's my honor and privilege to introduce two of our newest officers and get them sworn in today. So if I can have Hunter Eric and Mallory Cross come forward.
Yeah, and while they're coming forward, so everybody that's here for Hunter, please raise your hand. Well, I mean, you're all here for him, but I mean the family, the people that are related. I know you're all family, you're all related, but his family.
Small town.
Yes, and then everybody that's here for Mallory. Awesome. You can yes. She's raising her hand. Awesome.
If we get Hunter and Mallory front and center, that would be great. Hunter comes from a law enforcement family, as his father currently serves as a police lieutenant at Hillsborough Police Department. Hunter grew up in Canby and lived in Maui for a brief time during the pandemic. Hunter previously worked in the restaurant industry, and his hobbies include spending time with his wife and kids, playing guitar, and any outdoor activity. Hunter was hired on June 3rd, and he'll be going to the academy on July 29th. In attendance tonight to support Hunter is his wife, Jordan, their two daughters, Finley and Charlie, his father, Douglas, his mother-in-law and father-in-law, Kelly and Kevin Knutson, along with other family and friends. Mallory grew up in Tigard, and after high school, she attended Oregon State University. She graduated with a bachelor's in sociology and criminal justice. After graduation, she worked in Washington County as an investigator for pending criminal cases. She enjoys spending time with her family and friends and taking trips to the beach. Mallory was hired yesterday, so that's why she's in her business attire. But she too will be going to the academy on July 29th.
This is the fast track, though.
This is the fast track, absolutely. Mallory is joined tonight by her mother, Jill, brother, Mitchell, grandparents, Charlie and Agnes, boyfriend, Brandon, and Brandon's parents, Michelle and Brian, and many other family and friends. I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so you know how we do this. So I'm just going to start it, and you're going to read all of this and raise your right hand.
Okay.
So your name, and I do solemnly swear.
I, Hunter, do solemnly swear
Go ahead.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon. I will abide by the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics and the Department's rules and regulations while faithfully performing my duties as a police officer for Oregon City, Oregon.
Congratulations, you are now officially sworn in. Welcome, congratulations. Just yesterday, wow. Yeah, I don't think we've ever had anybody that was just yesterday and then now they're here.
No, it's, and we wanted to get her sworn in before she headed to the
Absolutely,
academy. So.
absolutely. That's the way we have to do it. All right. So start with your and then you can just go ahead and repeat it.
Okay.
Raise your right hand.
I, Mallory Cross, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon. I will abide by the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics and the Department's rules and regulations, while faithfully performing my duties as a police officer for Oregon City, Oregon.
Congratulations, you are now officially sworn in.
Thank you.
So get your badge.
And tonight, you might see that Hunter's not wearing his badge.
Yes,
It's a law enforcement tradition that, especially when a father or a mother is in law enforcement before their son or daughter, that they pin on the badge. So I'd like to call up Hunter's father to come
Want me to
pin
call
on the
him Dad,
badge.
Or by his title? Oh, Douglas, you've been asked to come forward.
Either way.
Get the picture. I'm getting out of the range. Don't stab him. Get you in some pictures. Oh. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure you know my friend Steve Calloway.
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact, or Mayor. Yes, pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so are we ready for the photos? Sure. Come on, guys. And then we'll do all of our signing our lives away here. We'll do that after. I have to do this for a giant camera meeting every year, so it's like I know how to get people worried out. Okay, now we can sign our life away.
Is there any money reflected in that from Wes? I thought they were.
I don't know.
I could see it. And then the Pioneer Community Center, they set a fixed amount there. I would think exceed that amount.
It will give everybody a minute so you can go outside and do all your wonderful photo ops and everything. Thank you, families, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. Look and see what 9D is. this thing? Okay.
Does Neil have to stay or?
Yes, he does have to answer a question correctly to stay. Yes, absolutely.
How many people know the mayor?
Should I ask him the question right now while we're waiting?
should.
Doug,
Doug.
when was Oregon City established? That's not what I said, Doug. I said, when was it established? Not incorporated. Established. Yes.
That's still the founding, not the.
Not incorporated. Established.
It's a
I
trick
know.
question.
So here, would you like to call a friend?
Call a friend.
Call a friend.
1829.
Call a friend, Doug.
1829.
Oh.
They told me I had to ask you that. 1829.
29.
1829.
Established, though.
Forevermore.
Well, he's got it wrong twice already. When was he married? 1850. 1850.
51.
Well, I've got documentation. I've
39 years.
I think we should have a trivia.
I've got documentation from the city of Oregon City and the Oregon Spectator that he testified at a trial in 1850 and identified himself as the mayor of Oregon City.
Are you implying that our files are always correct?
Well, if you can't believe the Oregon Spectator, who can you believe?
Oh, well, that's true.
You're 39 years closer to Doug was.
All right. Okay, let's move on to our next business. So we have item number 4. So do we have anybody here this evening that wants to speak under citizen comments? All right, seeing no one, we'll move on to the next item, and we have a presentation tonight under number 5A, Oregon City Downtown Association. Seems like you were just here, Juliana, but that's all right. We'd love to hear it again. Because we have an important event that's coming up. Yay, yay.
Oh, so let's push. Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a
Just remember name and for the
Oh,
record.
sorry.
Even though I introduced you, that's okay.
Thank you. Juliana Allen, Happy Valley, Oregon. So I am here as the Executive Director of the Downtown Oregon City Association, and I am presenting our updates to the City Commission. So on our agenda today is a activity report from Q1 and Q2, the top concerns of the district, successes, and then top concerns of the district. And then I'm going to highlight our work plan for the remainder of the year. Okay, so what have we been up to in Q1 and Q2? We have streamlined, reorganized, and focused the organization. Outreach and engagement with the business district continue to be a top priority of our organization. Our business outreach events attracted 20-plus stakeholders to engage in relevant topics, the Miles Fiberglass development, the McLaughlin Boulevard project, and more. We focused on board expansion, and we started and completed our strategic plan. We revised our work plan relative to the strategic plan, and our event season kicked off in May with a sold-out wine plus art walk. And my favorite thing about that is business owners reported an increase in sales that evening and increased visibility for future foot traffic. I continued to hear positive effects from that for weeks following that event. So the successes of Q1 and Q2. The Downtown Oregon City Association has made significant strides in revitalizing our district through streamlined, reorganized, and focused initiatives. By building strong relationships within our community, we have fostered collaboration and support crucial to our mission of building community and cultivating commerce in the downtown district. Our biggest successes of quarter one, oh, that's better. Quarter one and quarter two was the board of directors. Like I had mentioned, we expanded it. We got 4 new board members, and our focus was really trying to represent the downtown business district with our board nominees. And we swore them in at our we voted them in, police thingy. We voted them in at our annual meeting, which occurred just a couple weeks ago. Another big success of ours was continuing to manage our elevator and clean team. We all know the elevator has had some challenges, ongoing mechanical issues over the last couple of months, but we have done a great job, in my opinion, of continuing to manage it. And our elevator team they are committed. They are great ambassadors for the city. And same with the clean team. The clean team's focus is really the beautification of our downtown, and it means a lot to the district, it means a lot to the business owners, and again, that is one thing that I continue to hear positive feedback from everybody involved in that, so that's great. The last big success of our first quarters of the year was the completion of our comprehensive 3-year strategic plan, which provided us a clear roadmap for future development and sustainability. These successes underscore our commitment to creating a vibrant and thriving downtown for residents, businesses, and visitors alike. And a little later on in the presentation, I will go into what exactly we extracted from the strategic plan into our work plan. So there's 3 conversations I think I have most days with people. I only put 2 up here, but there's really 3. And part of our strategic plan was a survey that we put out that asked business owners, stakeholders, and also a community survey what the top concerns of the district was. And these 3 things were just mentioned over and over and over. It was the courthouse, parking, and then houselessness was the 3rd one that I did not put in the slideshow, but I think it's worth noting as well that those are the top 3 things that get mentioned over and over, with the courthouse and parking being constantly on there. So we all know the courthouse remains a major area of concern for the district, particularly among business owners. They worry that the impending move of the courthouse will lead to a loss in retail sales, diminished restaurant activity, decline in community foot traffic, and ultimately a less hospitable environment. So that is something that I am glad we are all keeping our eye on, because that one is a big concern for the district, and it is coming very fast as well. Parking, wow. Parking is an issue. We all know it. Many residents and visitors continue to express concern over parking in our downtown district. The current availability of parking spaces is perceived as less than adequate, and I want to add the caveat in there. Perception is the reality for our community, and we can sit here and say it's not an issue, but if our City of Oregon City believes it's an issue, then it's an issue. So we have to figure out how to address that, and that is going to be addressed in our strategic plan, work plan, derived from our strategic plan, excuse me. These work plan highlights came, like I mentioned, straight from our strategic plan. So I'm going to read the little paragraph here. So it says, our work plan is rooted in the Main Street approach, focusing on 4 key pillars: design, outreach, economic vitality, and promotions. So these initiatives have been derived directly from our strategic plan, ensuring alignment with our long-term goals and vision for the downtown revitalization. The structured approach guides our efforts to enhance the attractiveness, economic viability, and community engagement of our downtown area. So if you're not too familiar with the Downtown Association, we are part of a larger organization called the Main Street Organization, and they operate under these 4 pillars of a successful downtown. So under design, we have our elevator operations. We have a refined focus of the clean team. Our district is very large, and so that is one issue that I've heard with the clean team. We have them for 4 hours every day, but it's a large district, and so that's what I mean when I say refining the focus of the clean team, is just figuring out a better strategy to get them to hit the whole district in a time. Implement a mural program, which was in our strategic plan, but this was stalled. And introduce new limited merchandise, which we have partnered with a local artist, a local mural artist, to do some really cool designs that we are very excited to be showcasing soon. Under our outreach pillar for the strategic plan and our work plan is our business networking socials. So like I mentioned earlier, under our successes, the business and community outreach has continued to be one of our top priorities, and this will continue into the remainder of the year. We're also focusing on volunteer recruitment. Like our mayor mentioned, we have a very large event coming up, and we are gearing up for that in all the ways, one of them including volunteers. And then we also have a Friends of Downtown program, which we need to refine and workshop through that one. Economic vitality. Courthouse discussions, that again remains, that's been up there ever since I started here, so I think it'll continue to remain up there for a while. Strengthen the relationships with the property owners is another goal of ours, providing business support, diversifying the business mix that is in downtown, seeking grant opportunities to benefit our downtown, and parking advocacy. And the last one is, Frank, this is for you in particular. We are implementing a vacancy database tool. It's called the Booms tool. So it's building opportunities on Main Street. It's a property and inventory tool. It has information on all the buildings. So I remember at the last commission update that I gave, you asked specifically about the building vacancy. And so now we have a tool and we have a plan to get that information and see what we can do with it. Last but not least is promotions. So our promotions can be divided into two main categories. Our events, which for city coming up very fast, it is July 27th, which is remarkably soon. We have another wine walk. We have a Sunset Sounds concert series that takes place in the plaza on Wednesday evenings through the end of August. It kicked off last week on July 3rd, and it was well attended, great feedback from the restaurants. Ryan, who works in the office with me, went down on Friday to ask all the restaurants how it went, and they all gave very positive feedback. So that was encouraging. And then, of course, we've got the trick or treat on Main Street and our holiday tree lighting. The other aspect of our promotions are the initiatives. So business highlights, and this I'm mostly talking about like social media and other forms of marketing that we do. We have an email list that we push out probably, I aim to do at least 2 a month on that. It's a little bit more right now just because we are in event season, but the goal on the email list is 2 times a month. Again, with the caveat of it more right now just because of the time of year it is. Strengthen visitor marketing and refresh our marketing and our branding through all these other things we are doing. And that's that. So thank you so much for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions. This Mike and I do not get along, sorry.
To do a little more shameless promotion about the First City Festival, which you...
Sure, happy to. July 27th, downtown, we close from 7th to 10th, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's from 11 to 6 p.m. We've got music, we've got a kids zone, we have vendors, we have face painting, we have a lot of really fun things for the community. This has really become a staple in our community, and I'm really excited to see it come to fruition. It seems like we've been working on this all year, and so it's hard to believe that it's actually only 3-ish weeks away, maybe less than 3 weeks. So, yeah, come on down, and if you're interested in volunteering,
You already have my name, so
I do,
I'll
yes.
let you know. So anyway, this is our 13th, is it our 13th year?
I think so. I believe so, yeah.
So,
For the Downtown Association, I believe it was put on probably by the city.
questions? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you. First, I just want to reiterate just the marked differences that I've been able to observe from DOCA since you took the helm, and I just want to say from a city perspective, I really appreciate knowing that the money that we're investing is really going back into our community in an impactful way. So thank you for your leadership. So my only question is, could you talk a little bit more in detail about, you had mentioned how DOCA has been streamlining the organization and the structure. Could you talk a little bit about what that has looked like?
Sure. That has been a lot of things on the back end that we've been working through, mostly like the systems and the structures that were in place before were not super efficient and super functional. So in the office, it's just Ryan and myself, and he and I both have a lot of strengths, and we have very different strengths. So what we've really done is, for lack of a better word, divide and conquer. We looked at the whole of what we needed to do, and then, you know, he's better at this, he fixed that. I'm better at this, I worked on this. And so I'm really talking about just the foundation of the organization when I mean that. So that's a lot of just the actual organization of all of the pieces of the puzzle that we're holding.
Awesome, thank you.
I think example is that in terms of our access to our website and access to our communications, there were 4 to 5 different profiles that we had to go through, and now we've got it streamlined. They've got it streamlined down to 1. So there's only one way to get into it, as opposed to trying to figure out 5 or 6 of them, and we still don't know why that was.
I stopped asking that question.
So that's over. So anyway, that's just an example.
Stopped asking why and just saw what was in front of me and just dealt with it.
We stopped asking why and
Exactly.
they just started doing it.
Yes.
Mike?
When you were talking about concerns, and it's my fault, I don't hear real well, but you mentioned courthouse parking, and you said there was a third one I didn't catch.
The houselessness issue.
Okay.
Homeless, yeah.
All right, that was my assumption. I just wanted to make sure. And I'll just say, I've noticed that the communication that I receive from DOCA is a lot more professional, and it's obviously a lot more focused on getting people downtown. And it's really nice to see the organization really laser focused on that, and it's going to pay off for the merchants downtown. And we appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, when I started, there was a lot of things that the organization was doing, and there were just a lot of things, right? Like there was a lot going on, and I stopped and I looked at the mission statement. Okay, mission, community, and commerce. Community and commerce. If it didn't pass those 2 basic checks, like done. And so that was really how we focused the organization, was we just went back to the mission, dialed it down, and kind of started building from that foundation. So thank you.
Yeah, it shows. Thanks.
Thanks.
Anyway, thank you. As the city's representative on the board, I certainly also appreciate the fact that there was a lot of hard work by the board, and we spent a lot of time doing some recruiting, and I'm very excited about the expanded board that we will be working with and the city will be working with. So thank you also. You're good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, so next on our agenda, we're going to have a report on the Inflow and Infiltration program. And I'm sure, as my fellow commissioners know, that this has got to be my favorite project of 2024 and 2023, because I have been involved in this. And I'd like to thank John Lewis again for giving me the opportunity to see a demonstration of pipe bursting, which I know you guys are all laughing about, but I thought it was very exciting. And I really enjoyed it. So Kenny, are you doing the presentation?
That is correct. I will be presenting tonight for the commissioners. And then I got this working.
Is it the batteries?
No, it's user error. It's always user error.
Let's just blame the batteries. While you're doing that,
When you grab the mic, I'll change the slide.
as you are aware, I was able to do a little presentation at the West meeting that I went to about this program. They knew that I had been a participant, and so I did a testimonial for the city.
Yeah, Yeah.
So anytime you're ready,
Yeah, I suppose I can just have,
you can just tell
they
me.
can just, yeah, they can just navigate for me. So, yeah, thank you all for being here. My name is Kenny Candy Schultz, and I am the sewer engineer for the city of Oregon City, and I work for the Public Works Department. So just for a brief overview of how we're going to discuss the program tonight, I'm going to start by introducing the program, the concept of I&I, and the program structure itself. Talk a little bit about how the program has goals and organization in terms of how we go about performing it, what we did last year, our flow monitoring, where we tell you about how our efforts actually yielded results, looking ahead to what's coming up for the next year, and then for the first time, the I&I program actually has a 5-year plan to present, so we will do so. I am very happy. So, I will keep this brief, but what is I&I? Inflow and infiltration is essentially when water that does not belong in the sanitary sewer finds its way into the sanitary sewer. So infiltration occurs when water that is actually in the ground, so groundwater, goes into our pipes through cracks and breaks, or into our manholes through various cracks, breaks, voids, that kind of thing. Versus direct inflow is when something that is connected to our sanitary sewer just has no business being there. Common examples are house downspouts and also catch basins. So we're going to actually get slightly more, I won't say technical, but detailed on those concepts later when I start talking about flow monitoring, because I will have some graphics to show, but for now, that will do. So, the program overview itself, this map that I have on here is the portion of Oregon City that is covered by our I&I program currently. This corresponds to the area that the city and Water Environmental Services, or WES, have entered into an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, stating that the city will pay for 2/3 of all projects and the county will pay for 1/3. So for every dollar we spend doing I&I work, the county gives us 33 cents. And so in that way, we are able to magnify our efforts and do 33% more work than we would otherwise. So that's why we're choosing to stay focused in these areas. Though that being said, there's a reason that Clackamas West wanted us to focus on this area. It is because it has the worst I&I issues in the city, and the city's own records strongly agree with that assertion. So Wes and Oregon City Public Works both agree on one thing. That area that we're showing right here on the map, if we can take the I&I out of these basins, we will have made significant progress towards improving our system. So, we do program management for the I&I program. And basically what program management means is that the city of Oregon City utilizes a lot of outside assistance. So my program manager from Wallace is in the audience tonight. Between myself and him and a couple of other people at Wallace Engineering, we oversee a team of approximately right now, I believe, 16 consultants, which total somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 people working on this program actively at any given time. So this is a substantial effort we're putting on. And the reason that we are using so many people right now is that the I&I program has so many moving parts, and they all need to be working at the same time. We can't just be laying out construction projects, nor can we just be looking at the system and determining what our problems are, nor can we be just monitoring sewer flows. We have to do all those things at the same time. That's a significant workload, and so for that reason, until we start really bringing back the funding levels to a lower level, the Public Works is going to continue advocating for use of a program management model so that we can take the one staffer that is available to work on I&I and multiply their efforts by the combined skills of over 15 highly qualified firms. So the program itself has goals. Its main goal is that 65% reduction, which according to our background research, is attainable if we seal and repair every pipe and lateral within that basin, which is approximately, actually that number is later in the presentation, so I won't spoil it. But suffice to say that there are a lot of pipes to do and a lot of work to do. Now, attached to those goals, we want to make sure that we're spending this money cost effectively. So we don't want to just be investing in repairs without putting a lot of thought into whether or not we are getting a good return on these investments. And then as we are kind of on the cutting edge of I&I rehab in the entire Clackamas West service area, we are very much the test case in many ways, or we're the trailblazers, might be the better way of putting it, for I&I in Clackamas County. So we are learning as we go, because in many ways we are having to invent the process as we move along. So we always look at the decisions we made. We say, did we meet our other goals? And if the answer is no, we evaluate and we revise. Now, in order to evaluate whether or not we're meeting these goals, we have some metrics, our measures of success. So the main measure of success is, of course, just a gross amount of I&I removed. So million gallons per day, or MGD, and a percentage of that total peak flow. In addition, we have a couple of monetary measures that we use. So looking at the cost efficiency of our projects, we want to see for every dollar we spent, how many million gallons per day of I&I did we remove? So that's the second metric. And then the third one's a little bit more obscure to explain, but in essence, there are two paths ahead of us right now when it comes to how to deal with these excess flows in the sewer. We can either do nothing about it and then have to treat them at the treatment plant, convey them through our pipes, and then pump them at our pump stations, or we can do this I&I program. So if we go down the path of doing I&I repair, we are not spending that money on the system upgrades. So another metric of success is for every dollar that we're spending on this I&I program, how many dollars are we not having to spend doing other repairs? The goal is that if we spend $1 in the I&I program, we want to put off more than $1 worth of projects. And so that's actually a very important number that we keep in the back of our mind. Right. So getting into what we managed to do last year, starting with our investigations, here's those promised numbers. So 45% of the city's pipes, or about 62 miles worth of sewer mains, are within the reimbursement area, and about 1,600 manholes are within that area. So this is a very significant undertaking and it is a very ambitious goal to hit every single one of those sewer mains and every single one of those manholes with a project. So the first step to reaching that goal is frankly putting eyes on all of those pipes. Most of those didn't have surveys that were recent when we started the program. So in the last year, we surveyed about 100,000 linear feet, LF. And so doing the math there, that's about, I believe, 5 miles. But my math is awfully bad. I apologize for that. And then it's not just collecting the footage, we also have to process it. CCTV footage is not valuable whatsoever unless a person puts their eyes on it, codes it, and says, is this sewer in good condition or bad condition? Should the sewer be lined, or should it be burst, or should it be replaced altogether? So that process, we've gone through about 18,000 linear feet in the last year. As you can see, it takes a lot more effort to look at that footage than it does to collect it. And collecting it is not a simple matter. And then finally, smoke testing is something that we do in partnership with that CCTV survey. So CCTV looks at the pipes, while smoke testing, we basically put a blower over a manhole, and then we blow a smoke, which is not a smoke, but it is a mist, but we call it smoke testing because it looks like smoke. And we watch to see where it comes out. Ideally, it should be coming out of things that we expect. It should be coming out of sewer vents. It should be coming out of holes in manholes. what we pay attention to is when it comes out of things we don't want it to. So we see smoking gutters. We see smoking cleanout covers that ought to be sealed. We see smoking catch basins. When we see those, we record them, and those are things for us to fix. So, in combination, CCTV and smoke testing are how the city determines where are our worst problems right now when it comes to inflow and infiltration. With CCTV roughly corresponding to finding sources of infiltration, and smoke testing more or less focused on inflow. We get to have an accomplishment this year as the I&I program, which makes me very happy, particularly since that accomplishment is Linn 1, and it actually proved to be rather impressive, as I will show when we start talking about our flow monitoring from this year. But we are just simply going to start by discussing the project itself in some broad particulars. So, this is the first project where we did a holistic rehab. So that means that we didn't just do the sewer mains, nor did we just do the sewer mains and the laterals in the right-of-way. We went all the way to people's homes. All the way to 172 people's homes did we review, and 91 people's homes did we repair. So we did all that work in 6 months, did about 9,000 linear feet of sewer main, 9,600 feet of sewer laterals, and I didn't put it in the presentation, but a very important metric, 91 lateral installations, 0 major complaints, 0 angry citizens. This program has made public interaction and public outreach its cornerstone and central goal, and we've carried that through to construction, and we believe that we have a pretty good system in place to make sure that every person who allows us on their property, as they do allow us on their property, feels like their opinions are being listened to, that they're being well informed of exactly what it is we plan to do, and that they are given a voice and a chance to say no. So that if they don't believe that we are doing something appropriate on their property, they have the chance to speak up. So we want to be as transparent as possible with property owners because we value this partnership because both sides are getting something very valuable out of this arrangement. A new lateral can run you anywhere from $3,000 if you are fortunate to well over $20,000 if you are not. So that is quite a benefit to the property owner. But the city, on the flip side, gets to take out an awful lot of sewer flows. And considering that the treatment plant currently, during the worst days of the year, is treating 90% stormwater, and most of that stormwater is coming in through people's homes, people's downspouts, people's laterals, we are taking a serious chunk out of a significant amount of our future needs. So, it's a mutual benefit and one that the program is seeing borne out well. The manhole sealing project is another major thing that we did this year. About 90 manholes. This is a little bit more of a straightforward process. We literally just drill holes into the wall of a manhole, and then we inject in a special gel that I don't want to get too detailed because I'm afraid I'm such a huge nerd and I think it's so cool. But what I will say is that the gel is formulated in such a way that it works with the groundwater so that even though it's wet, that's actually how it's supposed to work. And then all of a sudden, your manhole that was weeping massive amounts of water is no longer leaking. So we did 90 of those. We'll be checking to see how they did next winter, and then we'll be continuing on with the next year. So this is another good success for the program this year. I'm not going to go through these all in detail, but suffice it to say that the I&I program has been busy this year, but is preparing for an even busier fiscal year 24-25, as our budget is significantly higher in this fiscal year, so we have a lot of work to do to get all of these projects off the ground and into the streets. So, talking about flow monitoring, which is the way that we actually look at how the program is doing. This is just a brief overview schematic of the map. We have a handful of basins that all flow into each other, and then eventually to a single meter that is in McLaughlin Boulevard. So what's the important thing to note here on this chart, or on the schematic, is that most of the central meters that collect kind of our accumulated flows for large areas of the city, those are actually owned and operated by Water Environmental Services. So we have real-time, I believe, 15-minute data available from them where we can see flows. And it just also so happens that Wes has a single meter that's downstream of the entire I&I program area, so it can literally be a single measurement of whether or not the program as a whole is removing I&I successfully or not. It's just 1 meter reading. However, in the basins themselves, the city has to set up flow meters each year. So we set them up and tear them down depending on the needs specifically of that year. So we stayed focused mostly in the McLaughlin and Kenema neighborhoods in this last monitoring season. So here are the promised flow monitoring results, which don't look all that interesting until I talk you through them. So, starting with that rainfall event that I'm showing, I've got 2 curves superimposed on each other. That's the storm in 2023 and in 2024. I'm going to look more closely at my notes so I can give you the right colors to go with each. So the blue is 2023 and the red is 2024. Now, there's 2 important things to note about those storms. One, they both delivered a similar amount of rain to the ground. So we'd say that those were similar 24-hour intensities. However, you'll notice that the orange one has a much steeper slope in that middle portion right there, whereas the blue one, which was 2023, is a little bit more consistent. So we'd say that the 2024 storm was actually more intense. It delivered a lot more rain in a shorter period of time for that period from approximately, the end of day 2 into day 3. So a higher intensity storm tends to come with higher I&I flows. So if all other things being equal, we did no work in a basin, we'd expect to see higher flows in 2024 in the peaks in our sewers than we would in 2023. And so we have 2 different charts here, Rivercrest Basin and Linn Basin. Rivercrest Basin was rehabilitated early in 2023, but notably between these 2 storms that are on that chart, no work was done. So Rivercrest serves as a baseline. It shows us what we should expect. And so there's a little red line showing across it. There's a slight increase in that flow. So that matches what we'd expect to see. Now, Linn Basin had work done on it between these 2 storms. And you'll notice that instead of there being a slight increase in that maximum flow rate, it stayed entirely the same. So what that means is that Linn Basin 1, which, to be clear, only rehabilitated 25% of that basin, pretty much eliminated that I&I characteristic from the flow chart. But honestly, when you start getting into the details, it actually becomes even more marked. You'll notice that Linn Basin, for that period early, just before that peak flow, you will see that there's a slight upward trend in that lowest flow. That indicates that groundwater has kept finding its way into cracks and that the flows don't actually get to come down during these drizzly periods. But there was another drizzly period in 2024, but instead of there being that climbing pattern, it stayed pretty steady. There's spikes with storms, sure, but it keeps coming back down. So what that indicates is we have basically eliminated the groundwater inflow signal from this flow. So by rehabilitating 25% of Linn Basin, we have basically eliminated the main signs of groundwater inflow. So what that means to me is that we've did honestly more than I was expecting to see. Now we still have groundwater infiltration. We still have quite a bit of inflow in the system. That's why there's still all those peaks. So we have cross connections to find. We have downspouts to disconnect. We have catch basins to take care of. But we have gotten a pretty marked result, a pretty remarked return on our investment with only a quarter of the basin being handled. I will be honest, I was not expecting to see this marked of a result, and I am surprised and I am pleased. And I think it is a good return on the taxpayers' money to get these kinds of results. So I am optimistic that we can continue to see good results going forward. So into the next year, we have more surveying to do. So flow monitoring, always going to be happening. We've got another 130,000 linear feet of CCTV survey planned for the upcoming year. So we've mostly handled in the prior years, we've taken care of things up and around McLaughlin and Kenema neighborhoods, a little bit down Malala Avenue. Now we're starting to move more towards South End Road and Warner Parrott and Warner Milne. So we're kind of moving our way through the city. And we're doing the same thing with smoke testing as well. And then we're also going to be hopefully processing about twice as much CCTV footage as we did last year. So moving into kind of what we're broadly planning to do in terms of projects next year. So we've got 5 projects that we're planning on actively designing next year. So we're focused in the McLaughlin neighborhood more or less. Both McLaughlin 1, 2, and Linn 1 are within the McLaughlin neighborhood, as well as going a little bit into Elyville in a couple of cases and in Rivercrest neighborhood, but we're pretty much staying in that trio of neighborhoods next year for design. Newell does go a little bit further afield, but actually still stays in Elyville. And then the manhole sealing project is just an annual program. We'll choose another roughly 100 manholes to seal that are within the I&I basin. So we will also be building a lot of projects this year. We built 1 major project last year. We're building 4 this year. So we're going to be very busy, and you're going to see an awful lot of us in and around the McLaughlin neighborhood, Linn Avenue, and Malala Avenue. So currently, on the commission's agenda for next week is the Malala Award. So that contract will be awarded, presuming that we all find it to be in order. And then we will start work on that sometime in August. We just advertised Rivercrest Phase 4 today. No, we are advertising it tomorrow, excuse me. And then we'll be opening bids on that one in August for a likely September start date. So both of those will be doing a lot of work during the winter. Linn 2, which is more or less focused around the promontory and Waterboard Park, and McLaughlin 1, which is in the McLaughlin neighborhood around 7th Avenue, are planned for the spring. And then, of course, the manhole project is both designed and built in the same year. Here's a rough schedule for the next 5 years for what the program will be doing. It's a little bit hard to read, but taking you through the main points, we will be doing monitoring every year, but we will only be doing model recalibration next year and in 2027. So the reason we don't do model recalibration every year is twofold. One, it literally doubles the expense of monitoring in the program for that year. But also, the program determined that we don't need to actually develop numbers every year to evaluate how the program is performing. As I just took you through this qualitative analysis with the flow monitoring results from this year, there are a fair number of us, myself included, in the program that are quite capable of reading charts and drawing pretty good explanations and outcomes from just simply looking at the raw data. So as we have that capability in the program, we're going to use it and try to reduce costs in that fashion. Similarly, manhole sealing is going to be built and designed every year. We have 4 projects planned for this upcoming fiscal year. 2 of them are going to go into the fiscal year after that. Then I believe it is 3 construction projects in 25, 26, 2 in 26, 27, and then 1 a year from there on out is the current plan. So for the most part, we are trying to move design further away from construction. The most extreme example of there not being space is McLaughlin 1, which due to its strong need to get work done before the pavement maintenance utility fee 2025 project does street work in the same area. We're designing it and building it in the same year, and actually we're designing and building it over a course of about 9 months. So we're really doing that one on a hurry up, and we don't really particularly want to keep doing that as that's not best practice. For doing it for one project for a big buckle down and focus, we can get away with doing that, but the program as a whole should be more on a design 1 or 2 years ahead and then do construction. That way, we always have almost a little pot of projects to choose from. So if budget changes or we finally find ourselves with a new emergency problem, we can just pluck a design out of the bucket and put it on the docket for the next year. So we're trying to get more of these stockpiled. So again, as opposed to going through this budget line by line, I'll kind of take you through some general highlights. So the program management overall budget, which is mostly focused on public outreach and administering the program as a whole, is going to stay at relatively elevated levels until 27-28. And what happens in that year is that we finally finish with our CCTV and smoke testing. So we want to do CCTV on about a 7-year rotation and smoke testing on a 10. We should be able to wrap up the I&I basin testing for both of those by 26-27. So we don't have to pay for that starting in 27-28. More or less just kind of going through these in more of a rapid succession, you can see that we have a fair number of projects where, for the most part, looking at, say, Linn 1, Linn 2, Linn 3, Linn 4, we have continuous blocks of design followed by construction. So this is this workflow that I've been talking about up to this point, where we're designing, we move straight into construction. So what you'll start noticing is that some more of these budget items are going to start having a little bit more distance between when the design is done and when construction is planned. And that's intentional. We want to get these stockpiled and prepared. And also, it does the program better to spend money early than later, because if we spend it early, we get to get that 33% match from Wes earlier, and then we get to re-spend that money earlier, and then it basically becomes a cycle where that 33% generates another 33% and another 33%, and the more times you can go through that process, the more money you get. So that's why we are really aggressively trying to spend down our funds now, because we want to be able to spend more funds overall over a 5-year period, a 10-year period, whatever the arbitrary length period is. If we want to spend more money overall, we want to spend more money now. And more or less, kind of to get back to the final bottom line here, the I&I program is slated to spend about $36 million over the next 5 years. This is roughly in line with what the budget outlook looks like for this fund. We're actually a little bit under allocated in the upcoming fiscal year, but we will be just rolling some of that money into future years. But most importantly, we are just slightly over allocated, and again, that is intentional. When it comes to adjusting project scopes, it's a lot easier to take work out than it is to put it in. So if we design a little bit more than we think we can do, and then we just don't have the money to deliver it, it's a lot easier to just carve a little bit out and then build only a portion of it. Whereas if we get to the end of our 5-year plan and we suddenly have a bunch of money in the bank, we'd have to figure out where do we even want to focus ourselves. So the program is always going to just slightly, in its long-term planning, over-allocate itself, understanding that we're always going to be carving these scopes back to make sure that we stay within the budget that is approved on a biennial basis. So I believe that that is my presentation. Any questions from the commissioners?
So in plain language, the goal of the I&I program is to reduce the amount of effluent or water volume that West has to treat. Is that a fair statement?
That is one of the goals, yes.
Oh, is that not the primary goal?
I would say that in terms of dollar value, it's the largest goal.
Okay. So obviously we have the ability to measure the Oregon City inputs into total water volume processed. And West supposedly has a meter that measures all those inputs at one place. And I would think West would have the ability to say 100% of the water is this, and as you said, Oregon City's contribution is probably the greatest of any surrounding community. Is that fair?
That would most likely be accurate, yes.
Okay. All right. So that being the case, the greatest impact to Wes's operating costs is the reduction of the amount of water volume provided to West to process by Oregon City. For example, if we put forth 50% of their total water to begin with, and Gladstone put forth 25, if we reduce by half and Gladstone reduced by half, our reduction would be much larger than theirs, and their efficiencies would be better, and their profitability would be greater. So my question is, knowing that we in Oregon City have the greatest impact on West's operating conditions and ability to operate profitably and realize more efficiencies, doesn't it beg the question, shouldn't Oregon City be compensated at a greater rate than the surrounding communities? Yes. And maybe finance isn't your thing, but that's the train of thought, that if we contribute the most and we can reduce the most, would not everyone benefit from us having the greatest amount of financial support to reduce our contribution?
So as staff, I won't put any direct comment on that, as that is very much a matter for the commission and West to discuss amongst themselves. But I find no particular fault in the technical aspects of your statement.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, because I mean, it was just a sequence of events that follows, so.
It is the question that we have been asking Wes
Forever.
Since I came on the board. I have also asked that question.
Yeah.
And said that we feel that we ought to be compensated. Again, it's a political issue. We ought to be compensated because we're putting a reduction. So if we have the ability, because my question had the similar. So if we have the ability to monitor and we know that we're putting less in, then we should be paying less. So let that just be for the record. We'll deal with that on the west side. So.
Essentially, we're subsidizing others by our
and we always have.
I have said that at the West Board meetings as well. And since I'm now the vice chair, I'm moving that forward.
Does West share info readily with you about, here's our total volume, and what we see input through the Oregon City system is this much of our total volume? Do you
actually quite readily? We have a login to their real-time flow monitoring data, so we can pull their real-time flow data at any time we desire, with or without their immediate knowledge. We do so regularly.
For only our city?
We have a login for their Claros system, so we can pull information on the applicable flow meters. For instance, we do have to pull information on West Linn, as the meter that I mentioned that measures all of the I&I area does also pick up West Linn, but it's a simple subtraction to take out that flow.
And that's the simple subtraction I'm talking about. If West processes 100% of all waters, the Oregon City contribution is this percentage, and we know what we've reduced it, correct? I mean, your calculations show.
At this time, we don't actually have specific numbers. That's actually why we do pay for the modeling every few years. I can give you some pretty good qualitative information about how effective our work was. But until we calibrate a model, I can't give you anything quantitative that says how much flow we have taken out. I can estimate it, but my estimate will not be nearly as accurate as an actual model output.
So is there a free exchange of information between Wes and yourself and others?
I have a pretty good relationship with the West staff that are working with us on this program. Between the TAT, the Technical Advisory Team, that Wes oversees, and just regular interactions between myself and staff over there, we exchange information fairly regularly and with relative ease.
So is that quantitative or numerical information, or just seem to be doing better?
Both.
Well, then quantitative would either prove the point that we just made or disprove it.
So at this time, the city doesn't have enough quantitative data to make any affirmative statements. So we've shared with them what we have, but until we do a full model calibration and extract the actual numbers from there, we don't really have much to share with Wes beyond what I literally just shared with the commissioners when it comes to the visual indicators of a high effectiveness, but the lack of ability to make a concrete calculation.
Sure, I can buy into that. I'm not being disrespectful, but I mean, if at a previous point in time they processed this amount and we've got a specific project where we've reduced our input by this amount, how is that reflected in the amount that Wes has to process? And again, my interest is that costs are shared equitably and rewards are allocated equitably. And that's all. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot from a financial perspective. It's just my view of the whole program. I don't disagree with the program. I just like to see the costs and benefits allocated what I perceive to be fairly. Thanks.
If I may follow up, Commissioner O'Donnell, I will just simply note that as there are different amounts of rainfall in every single year, making direct comparisons without doing a straight apples to apples comparison, running the exact same storm through the exact same model, makes it really difficult to make statements. I could give you right now in this meeting my estimate of what I think these reductions are, but frankly, they'd be little more than a guess. And so as a professional and licensed engineer, I would not find it appropriate to make that particular kind of estimate either to this body here or to our partner at WES.
And again, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying to compare 2024 to 2022 or 3. I'm saying in, say, a 90-day period, we all experienced the same amount of rainfall. This much water went into the system to be processed, and Oregon City's contribution was some percentage of that. That's all I'm saying. And I have an engineering degree myself, and I understand what you're saying. Got no qualm with an educated guesstimate.
Of course, and I appreciate it, Commissioner O'Donnell. Any other questions?
I think we would all agree it's a mutual benefit, but I can guarantee it's not equal. And that someone's benefiting it from a lot more of this than we are, and it's Wes. And that's the way it's always been. The problem is we cannot compare, and there are some cities flat out doing no I&I. There are some cities doing some variable of it, and they're getting the same deal that we're getting. And we're basing that and adding that on top of the regular rates that we don't believe are equitable at all and have never been. And so we've never been able to compare the flow of our city to the flows of other cities to figure out that real rate structure and understand how much we are subsidizing the rest of the county. We've never been able to get an answer on that. Are we monitoring the same? We're monitoring as a city the flow going into us ourselves, and they are also doing that?
That is correct. So their system monitors the real-time flow for any of their mains that they operate. So they have them in most of their member communities.
Do our numbers match their numbers?
Depending upon, there is one meter installation that our numbers and their numbers didn't match, but we actually believe that that was an issue with our installation. Otherwise, we have actually been pretty closely aligned.
Anyway, there's been, many unanswered questions for decades on this. So there's a definite lack of trust in Wes from most of us sitting up here. Some have less than others. Any numbers coming from Wes, I wouldn't buy for a second. I wouldn't believe for a second. So I think the I&I program is great. I think we should be doing it. I'm just concerned that we're going to be spending a lot more money than other cities, and I also have the same concern that Wes knows that, and that Wes is using us to continue to subsidize the county. And that bothers me. It always bothers me. It's why I couldn't stand staying on the West Advisory Board and why the mayor grantedly stepped in, but our former mayor was an advocate against West. We know what we don't trust them, and we shouldn't. So I'd be skeptical of any staff member that is believable of everything they say unless we have the proof to show it. And it's really not just having our numbers, it's comparing our numbers with other cities' numbers. And Wes has been, even though they've been they've been very reluctant to give us flow numbers just even for ourselves as commissioners, but there almost no reality in my mind that they would ever get us flow numbers from other cities so we could compare it. If we could, we would know exactly what we are paying in Oregon City and whether we could figure out how much we are paying in comparison with other cities and other non-cities, by the way. Because if we talk about the advisory board, you would understand that the advisory board is completely outweighed by citizens that are not from cities. And so any vote on the advisory board can be overthrown by, without a say of any of the cities. It's a completely interesting advisory board, and plus it's an advisory board that the county commission doesn't have to listen to one bit and do whatever they want, and they do.
Add, Mr. Mitchell?
Well, the fact that a third of the money is coming from West, that's wonderful, but 2/3 of it is coming from Oregon City. And the challenge I think that we all have is the goal of this program is to keep West from having to build a facility or expand their facility, certainly extend the amount of time before they have to do that. But it's not going to be a facility for Oregon City. It's going to be a facility for their whole system.
Right.
So are we, by paying 2/3 of the I&I, are we subsidizing their ultimate construction project? And that's the challenge. That's the
For a
challenge
plant that was originally ours.
So
The three cities.
The three cities, right.
the I&I program area that was agreed to in the IGA is an area that we both Oregon City staff and West staff agree are the worst parts of the town. So before we knew that there was a West 33% match, our I&I program covered the same area. And the simple fact is that in the McLaughlin neighborhood, in the Kanema neighborhood, down Malala Avenue, and portions of South End and portions of Warner Parrott, those are our oldest mains. That's where we have clay mains still in service. That's where we have our worst condition concrete sewer mains. That's where we have all of our worst laterals. And as I answered, I believe, Commissioner O'Donnell's question earlier, yes, the wastewater treatment plant by numbers is the largest reason that the I&I program is necessary. But I will not understate the necessity from the Oregon City perspective to also replace these sewer mains. We also have sewer mains that will need to be upsized, our own sewer mains that we operate. We have pump stations that are operating at or above capacity and are always, every single year, at danger of overflowing. And they cannot be improved because, at the end of the day, the issue isn't the size of the pumps. The issue is the amount of flow coming in. There's a certain amount of property that we can put a pump station on. I could slap a bigger pump all I want on there, but at the end of the day, the wet well drains in, which is the area where the sewer actually flows in before the pump takes it out. That is draining in less than a minute in a lot of these cases. So I can't drain it much faster. So I could put a bigger pump on there, but I'm not going to get anything out of it. And honestly, the same thing happens with our sewer mains. We accept, as a state of affairs, surcharge, which means that the flow actually goes above the top of the pipe and backflows into the manhole. That's just a normal operating procedure in Oregon City because our system has so much deferred maintenance within it. So just to be abundantly clear, Oregon City also needs to do these projects in this area. And staff independently agrees, without consultation to Wes, that this is a good area for us to spend our ratepayer money as well.
I have no argument with anything you just said. My argument remains, if I'm a manager and I've got a leaking vessel and I'm getting 100,000 gallons from this source and 50,000 from this, I'm going to allocate my money at the 100,000 gallons per minute input versus the 50. That's my argument was in terms of funding, which is not your area.
And if you could get this city to pay for 2/3 of it, you're going to save a lot of money.
Yep.
Ed?
My concerns have already been communicated, so I'll just simply say that I am glad that Mr. Lewis's affinity for slideshows has clearly passed on, and we can recognize that we will not be without that once he has left us.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Just wanted to add one last final comment that that at our last West Advisory Committee meeting, there was a lot of padding on the speed and the efficiency that we've been completing our I&I project. We are obviously way ahead of all the other jurisdictions that are going to be involved in this program. So this will be a great way for us to address some of the concerns that both the other commissioners mentioned, because we'll be able to say, based on some of your charts already, of the less amount that we're putting into the system, because it's already shown, you said at 25% project completion, we're already seeing a reduction. So that'll go a long way to helping me bolster some of my comments to Wes at our advisory committee meeting about the fact that one size unfortunately does not fit all. And what I've been talking with them about is that, you know, is there's a part for me is there's a fairness doctrine. So I don't think that we as taxpayers in the city of Oregon City should be paying the same rates as the unincorporated area out by Damascus and Hoodland, because they've got a completely different situation. They're not on storm drain, but they have sewer. But they want to flatline all of the rates so that everybody pays the same thing. And I understand that from an empirical standpoint, but the reality standpoint is that it doesn't quite gel when we're doing everything we can to reduce our input to it, so that they do not have to do all the plant expansions. But I want to add, you know, one more thing that I certainly want to thank both you and Dana Webb, who are the project managers for this year, the lead, and she's there to help you along, and she's been doing a great job in helping you with this project. But I also want to compliment Landis and Landis Construction, and I also want to acknowledge Jim Montgomery, who's the project manager, for all the stuff he's been doing, because everybody's been doing a fantastic job, and keep it going so that we can get Oregon City, you know, back to a situation where we're not having all the water infiltrating into our system. So thank you very much for the presentation, and we look forward to getting some updates. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for not clapping. So we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda, and do we have any comments or a motion to adopt the consent agenda, items 7A through 7H? And I just want to add one point about 7B is that
So do I.
I am so excited about us continuing the program with the City of West Linn for our Pioneer Community Center, having done some deliveries of meals this last year. The need is out there, and we're doing our part to help our friends across the river.
The only thing I saw on it, and maybe Kendall can answer this question, it seems like it's a fixed amount. And what if we exceed that amount? How do we deal with that?
What number are you talking about?
Talking about the, I think you just talked the meals.
Oh, the Meals on Wheels
Yeah.
program, yeah.
Yeah. So financially, it's a fixed commitment by a sister city. What happens if it's not the greater of type of statement in the agreement? And that's why I'm curious why it isn't, or lesser of.
So in the IGA that you've been given, there is an increase escalator that we already worked into the IGA. And so this new IGA, every year will have this escalator in it. So the cost will go up. It's not fixed every year.
The reason I ask is there's a specific budget impact amount of $41,231. Believe me, I've got no qualms that the program is admirable. How does one, if there's cost overruns, do we recover those is the question? Or say the program cost you $50,000 to Oregon City instead of 41. What happens then? I don't see anything in there that says greater of or lesser of or.
Yeah, Cecily Rose, manager of the Pioneer Community Center. And I think I would just answer that question by stating that when I started here just over a year ago, we actually had an MOU with Linn. It was very informal. It didn't have the opportunity for an increase. And when I calculated numbers, which I do every year, a cost per meal, a cost per ride, I realized that I felt like we were subsidizing or potentially subsidizing. So worked with the city attorney last year to have a much, I'll say, more accurate IGA and more formal process with them. And so that's how we're continuing to operate. This year does have that 3% increase, and it does say that. I think what isn't covered is exactly what you're mentioning. We don't have anything that says, you know, what happens if it goes above and beyond. I think at that point, we do need to obviously reassess. I think we need to reevaluate, but I do think that the agreement with Linn is one that states that we can do that. You know, we can have a conversation with them and say this is not working. You know, it's an automatically renewable, you know, but it doesn't mean, you know, you have to approve it or they do for that matter. But I do think we are much more aligned, and I think we're projecting the potential service. You know, I've been doing this line of work for over 11 years now. I've never seen crazy increases on the number of units for transportation or the Meals on Wheels program, aside from obviously the pandemic, where everyone was staying home and everyone all of a sudden qualified for the program.
Yeah, no arguments with any of that. We just came from a major meeting on water rates and contractual obligations and mitigating risk through both parties, and maintaining a fairness to both the provider and the receiver. And those are the kind of contractual language things that say, if the program exceeds this amount, then maybe the limitations of liability to say Linn are no greater than an additional $10,000. That's a good way to write a contract. If this is what folks want, I'm not going to argue with it. I think it could have been improved in terms of the contractual language. But that's just my observation as one who has dealt with that kind of thing for many years. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Yeah, so I had similar concerns, but upon reading through the IGA, it does say an annual review may be made by the Pioneer Community Center to ensure revenues from all sources will cover the annual expense. If expenses are not covered, a request of additional funds may be made not to exceed 3% in any 1 year. And this is the important part. In addition, services may be capped if the expenses exceed revenue offset. And so I have similar concerns, but upon reading that statement in there, I feel comfortable with it. So thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it.
Okay. I have a motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the consent agenda. Thank you, Cecily. Thank you, Kendall. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. Yes, sir.
Can I say one thing?
Please,
And
you say two things.
This would be a work session topic. I have to admit, I had a little heartburn approving this consent agenda. There's one item on there for over $1 million. There's another item for more than $2 million. And I'm just bothered a little bit by spending that amount of money on consent agenda. And I'm wondering if in a future work session, we could maybe talk about it. I don't know if anybody else is concerned about it, and it could be a very quick discussion. Should there be maybe some sort of a dollar cap on the amount that we do on a consent agenda? It would just be a future work session. I don't want to spend the time tonight. We got a big agenda.
I also saw that, but I read through each of those agreements, and they're pretty standard. I wasn't.
Well, I read them too.
Yeah, I know
We're spending the people's money, and those are a couple of big chunks.
Well, yeah, and what we're spending the money on is what I consider to be fairly necessary and routine services. They just happen to be a little bit, but we can talk about it. All right, let's move on to item 8, which we don't have any public hearings tonight. So let's go to item 9A, general business, resolution 2421, adjusting solid waste collection and disposal rates effective September 1st, 2024. That is Dante and Oregon City Garbage Company are.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, however you want to sit.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thanks for having us. As you know, I'm Dante Posadas. I'm the right-of-way and construction manager. With me is...
Hi, good evening. Will Mathias, CFO at B&B Leasing.
That on, Pam? You gotta press the button, I think.
There it is.
And hold
I'm
that
Pam
closer to
Bloom,
you.
owner of B&B Leasing.
Just move that over, Pam, so it's over by you. I think that one does go.
Sure.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you, Mayors. Evan, if you could do the presentation. So tonight we come with an adjustment to solid waste collection rates, looking for it to be effective September 1st of 2024. We have in the presentation, there is a slide on state regulations, why we abide by these regulations and what regulations, programs and rate adjustments and franchise ability. We outline the parameters why or how we establish rates in the city through city code, and what those parameters are. We go through the proposed rates. There's two options tonight in front of you. And then we go through the adjustment reasons why these adjustments are in front of you, what economics are behind it, the different services that we are providing to the city and new services that are coming in the coming years, and then an opportunity for questions. So here's our first slide is the regulations that the city abides by. Their state regulations, ORS 459 allows the city to have the franchising authority for our franchise hauler of solid waste. ORS 45A allows us to implement the different programs required to, because of the city sizes and different demographics. Because we are in the Metro Watershed area, we have to abide by the 2030 Regional Waste Plan, which includes business food waste, programs for opportunity to recycle, things like that. And then our city code outlines our established franchise with B&B Leasing. It outlines the franchise conditions which B&B has to abide by. And it also outlines how we have to abide by state regulations and the parameters that the city commission takes to establish the rates that we have in front of you today. So solid waste rates per our city code are established by cost of service. There is also the anticipated cost of providing services, the equipment needs that are, ever growing, the investment that the franchise makes and the value or the reasonable rate of return, and charges comparable rates for comparable service areas, the public interest for reasonable rates, and local wages and disposal fees and recycling costs that are going up. So before you tonight, there's two different proposals. There is option one, which is a uniform 12% adjustment. The adjustment would be a $3.20 for 20-gallon carts, would be a $3.94 for 35-gallon carts, and for commercial users, it'd be a $30 increase or $30.17 for a 2-yard container. Option two is more of a variable rate option. This was proposed by B&Lee to promote reduction of solid waste while still allowing the franchisee to have a reasonable rate of return and understanding their cost and the economics behind that. The variable rate for the 20-gallon is, I believe it's a 7.5%. Yeah, it's a 0.8% for the 20 gallon. It's a 10% for the 35 gallon, and it's a 14.5% for 65 gallons and 95 gallons. And for 20 gallon, you can see it's a little bit lower than the 12% adjusted rate at $2.08. For the 35 gallon, it's a little bit lower again at $3.28. Just for context, about 65% of residential users in Oregon City have a 35 gallon cart. So that's where we are, and the chart below shows our comparison and our proposals compared to the other cities around the metro area and unincorporated in rural Clackamas County. So the reason why this rate adjustment's in front of you today is one of the biggest reasons is Metro's transfer tip station fee is increasing. It has increased every year for the last 3 years, but this year it's an 11.9%. Thank you, Jacob. It's an 11.9% increase. Also, new trucks and equipment have seen a significant increase since the pandemic. There's a 25.8% increase there. B&B Leasing has just completed a labor agreement with their employees. That's a 6.9 increase in the first year, with other gradual increases as the years progress. Consumer Price Index, as everybody knows, was 4.9%, and that's a fairly high increase. And recycling cost has actually increased 108% since last year. So that's another big increase. And the graphic there shows that in 2020, a truck cost $323,000. Today, it costs $435,000. It's about a $90,000 increase for one of these hauling trucks. And then the services that we provide within the city, right? So the city collaborates with Clackamas County as our solid waste partner to implement services and the state regulatory needs. In 2024, the state is implementing the Recycle Modernization Act, which the city will have to work through abiding with, and we're working with our hauler to implement new programs and complete a survey that will help us see what programs are necessary within our city. We have implemented Recycle Plus last year, which picks up textiles, clear clamshells, plastic films, plastic bags, and then we also implemented the business food waste requirement in 2021. And we've seen pretty good cooperation from Group 1, a little bit less cooperation from Group 2, and Group 3's deadline for cooperation is actually September of this year, and we're working with the county to see who's abiding by the regulation and how we can, work them towards abiding with that regulation.
Hurt them more.
So that's our presentation. We'd like to see if you guys have any questions or if there's any clarifications on option 1 or option 2. And if you guys have any questions for Will or for Pam, feel free to let us know.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to jump in first. I reviewed this quite a bit, and obviously all of us are, or at least most of us on this commission are clients, so I don't look at this as any sort of a conflict. But I have always supported and promoted the process by which we fully encourage people to recycle, to reduce their waste. So I really would support option 2, because I think those folks who are making an attempt to reduce their sort of footprint in terms of the size of their container really goes a long way to having less stuff going to the landfill. And, I've watched those trucks many a week as I'm going down the gorge, and, not all of them are coming from us, from our area, but they're coming from the Portland metro area. So I really think that incentivizing waste reduction is really the way to go, and I think that shows with the Recycle Plus on-call program. I'm going to just say this publicly, that I wish that we could do something about reducing the number of clamshells, these plastic ones. For a while there, we seem to have a lot of restaurants that were using less styrofoam, and now they've pretty much gone to these little takeout containers, which unfortunately I have seen them in the trash. People are not reusing them. But that's a topic for another day. So I really support your rate proposal option number 2, because again, recycling is where we really need to go. And continue to go, excuse me. We're already doing it, but continue to go.
So to me, waste collection is one of those, almost a natural monopoly, much like gas or electric or whatever. So I see the rate increase by Metro, and I've overseen B&B when I sat on the rate and fee committee 10 years ago. And you folks have always been fair, and to be able to provide a service, you have to be there. You have to be financial. Does this give you what you need to stay in business, or is this compressing your profit margins? That's a pretty blunt question, but I mean, I'm concerned that I want you to be in business, because in the world of services that are provided to we who live in Oregon City, you're not coming in here like PGE with essentially a 25% asking an increase. You're not coming in here like the gas company with you're coming. So how do you stay in business, and does this allow you to stay in business? And that's my interest.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell, for the question. It does allow us to stay in business. It gives us a modest return. We know we have the ability, should cost change again next year, or Metro, should they do another increase, we can come back before the commission and ask then. But for what the costs are now, it does give us a modest return, and it gives us what we need.
Okay.
Or, until we're able to look at, we do a detailed cost report through the county every year. And so we get a look every year at, what our needs are, or if, we're already at where we need to be for each jurisdiction we serve. And this is what's reasonable for our return for the next year.
Obviously, the comparative rates are very favorable for us. I mean, nobody can take issue with that.
And that's a priority of ours as well, because as you said, you appreciate the service we provide. We appreciate being able to serve the city and the partnership.
So is the allocation of costs between commercial and residential, does that seem equitable? Does that work out okay?
It does. There is some level of subsidy where commercial margin is a little higher and residential is a little lower. So there is some level of subsidy, but the gap is not a massive gap.
Okay. Well, my interest is in the continued survivability of this business as a provider to Oregon City residents. So if you're satisfied, I'm okay. If you weren't, I'd like to hear it right now. That's all there is to it.
We've tried to be as efficient as we can be. And I have to say, with our employees that we have, they know what our priorities are. So they've been able to work right with us. And
okay, I just don't want to see you folks be in a pinch, that
Thank
you
you.
continue to enjoy that which you have provided and have a fair rate of return. And if you're telling me that, then I can approve this.
Yes.
Which one we approve will be a discussion up here.
Yeah.
We also sit on a Metro advisory committee to inform them that their rates have effect on us, and try to figure out, what is fair and how do we allow the rate, or look at their rates in a fair perspective.
I got the impression reading that report that the rate increase was kind of a unilateral decision, and it wasn't from our end.
we tried.
Yeah, we tried.
You didn't have to read between the lines to get that.
We're reacting to it.
Right. Okay, as long as you're in business and you're comfortable and you're making a livelihood,
We're okay.
you're okay.
We're okay.
If you're not, all right. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, a quick question and a comment. What is residential central billing?
So residential central billing is, we have a few accounts where it may be like a mobile home park or something like that, and we send, they're all individual accounts where they have set carts out, but we send the bill to the business, and then they split the bill to the residents of the.
Okay, thank you. A quick comment. I also support option number 2. I asked last year for something that would incentivize throwing away less, and this does that. I wish it went further. I'll point out that, as was pointed out, our rates are fair, but on this proposal, we would be charging about 40% more for a 65-gallon than a 35-gallon. West Linn and Canby both charge 60% more for a 65 than a 35. So I can support number 2. You know, next year, let's keep moving the bar and encouraging smaller amounts tossed out. Thank you.
So you're suggesting that when we look at this again, that we want to see a little bit more of a differential to further incentivize recycling.
To further incentivize use of a 35 compared to a 65.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a simple question. Does the choice between those two impact your business in any way?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Just wanted to give you 2 options.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation and for all that you do for our community, first of all. I'll be the third person to say I support doing the variable rate as well. I just want to clarify for people who are watching in the slideshow, I think some numbers were, because it showed that the dollar increase for the variable was the same dollar increase as the option 1. And so I just want to clarify for people that in the staff report, the increase does have a larger differential in the second option. And so I am happy to support that, and we'll move that we go down that road.
Second. You want to add? Okay. All right. Well, that was the motion that we adopt option 2.
Second.
Been second. It was actually seconded by Commissioner Smith and thirded by Commissioner Mitchell.
Commissioner Adam Morrill.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Appreciate it.
For, again, just being such a great community member and great community partners. And I don't know what to say about our friends at Metro, because I think that they are a little bit behind the ball in terms of upgrading and updating their facilities, and that is going to have an impact on all of us because we have inefficiencies. And they know it, and I wish they'd stop studying it to death and just get on with it, and let's get something built.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Dante. All right, next on our agenda, we have item 9B, and Youth Opioid Prevention Grant Program Committee Evaluation and Award Announcement. Is that Chief Davis?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Commission. I'm introducing, I'll invite up Ann Haynes and anyone that she wants from Oregon City Together. Just a brief little statement. This is the second year of our earmarked money that the Budget Committee and the Commission adopted for youth prevention and opioid funds. And so we advertised this grant, and our intention was to get it out there. It closed on 5/23/24. The grant committee met. There were some follow-up questions that they wanted to answer, so we provided that to Ann Haynes and Oregon City Together. She provided the answers. We met again on June 4th. And then in the packet, the grant committee, you can see there's an average committee evaluation and the questions and answers that were provided, and along with the application. So I'll turn it over to Ann Haynes so she could do a brief presentation, and then you guys can vote on the award.
Hi there. Thank you again for allowing us to make a presentation, and thank you for the commitment from the city and the police department for youth substance use prevention. And this is our second year for this grant if we are awarded. So thank you for the first year, and we feel like we had a successful, oh, thank you very much. Okay, thanks. We had a successful grant program that we did in partnership with the police department and you guys at Oxla. And then we also pushed it out into the community. So the second couple of pages I did just decide. I think some of you have already seen this. This is an outcome sheet that I put together for the program. We provided leadership training for 45 students at Oxla by a nationally known youth leadership trainer. Our original goal was to have at least 8 students involved, so we did much better than that. They put together a campaign, and this is very similar to what we're going to be doing again this year, but they put together a campaign, and you can see some of the numbers that we were able to achieve with this campaign on social media, website reach, billboard reach, and our billboard is still up, by the way, and then posters and stickers that went into all the schools, all the elementary and middle and high schools. So, and then of course, a more detailed report with some more numbers will be coming out when my final exit report comes out in the next few days. And then the next page is there we go. The pre and post survey that we put together for the students at Oxla, and 3 of the questions, we had more than 3 questions, but 3 of the questions were specifically about mental health outcomes. Question 1 was, I often feel so anxious and stressed that I don't know what to do. And so the lower the number, the better, by the way. So 1 is that they strongly agree, and then 5 is that they strongly disagree. So the lower the number is better. So the pre number on that was 2.85, and the post was 2.79. All of these numbers are fairly negligible movement, but on 2 of the questions, we got movement in the right direction, and on question 2, we still have some room to grow there. So we will be working on that, and it gives us, a little direction as we move forward with the program this year too. So, and then you'll get more numbers on the final report. But this grant for this coming year is funding phase 2 of our evidence-based, peer-led mental health awareness campaign to reduce risk factors and increase protective factors, which is what primary prevention is. And among Oregon City youth, ultimately the goal, of course, is to prevent youth substance use, because mental health is so important to preventing substance use. And the campaign seeks to increase understanding of mental health, strengthen their coping skills, provide practical how-to tools, and increase supportive resources. And the multi-pronged effort will include, again this year, the youth leadership training for Oxla students with at least 35 or more students engaged and active to increase awareness of healthy options to reduce stress and anxiety. The second prong is the creation and implementation of the campaign, which is created by the youth. So through their process working with the leadership trainer, they create the messages that they want, that they believe their peers need to hear or see. Then they decide as a group how they want to deliver that message to their peers. This last year, it was the posters and stickers. They wanted to make sure that everything, all the kids in all the schools were covered by that. And this year, we did a little bit this year. Hannah helped me in doing a little digital focus group with the city's youth advisory group. So this year, now that we've done this before, we'll be able to kind of get things done a little quicker so that we can focus group with more youth, so that we have more input from other youth, not just the Oxla kids, so that we can push out the best campaign that's going to make the most sense. And then number 3 is the implementation of the Blues program, which is an evidence-based, internationally acclaimed well-being program for teens in high school. It's comprised of 6 hours of group classes. It's 4 to 8 kids, so it's a small group who are identifying as anxious and depressed or feel a little anxious and depressed, and this program has wonderful outcomes for reducing, it's a prevention program to reduce the onset of depression and anxiety. So it teaches resilience and reduces low mood and anxious thoughts. And we have a counselor at Oxla who will be implementing this program at least twice through the year because it's a 6-week program. So at least twice through the year, hopefully 3 times through the year, we'll have her implementing that. And our outcome is to decrease 11th grade stress, anxiety, and depression by 3% by 2025. And that will be measured by the Student Health Survey. And then the next page is just a listing of our, whoops, I went ahead, there we go. Thanks, whoever's helping me over there, great. Budget, the budget items. Personnel, the administration fee through the Fiscal, which is our school district is our fiscal agent. Materials, advertising, and printing, that will be whatever the kids decide to do for the program and for the advertising. This year, of course, it was the billboard and the website and the posters and the stickers. And then we have a youth trainer, and then we have staff stipends for the teachers who help implement the program with the Oxla kids. And then the staff training is the counselor for the Blues program, a little event support, which is some incentives for the kids, and then transportation travel. And so that is really all I have, but we really appreciate Oregon City's commitment to youth substance use prevention. I think it's, obviously, we think it's super important for the health of the community because, you know, prevention really is the cure to keep our people healthy. So if you guys have any questions.
Are there any questions, gentlemen?
Jump in.
Okay, let's have a motion then. Oh.
I just wanted to talk a little, it's not a question, I just wanted to give a few comments. So the mayor and I were able to sit on the evaluation committee with Chief Davis, Captain Pagano, Val, and I think that was it.
Finance.
Finance, we had, yes, I'm sorry, finance. So we met a couple times to go over this, and for me it was important that we didn't just simply accept it because it was the only application that was important to me. And so after our first round of evaluating, we decided that there were some deficiencies in areas that we felt could that warranted some more background information, and I think that information has been sufficiently provided to us, so I will support this moving forward. I also hope I hope that Oregon City Together recognizes that through this grant program, this itself is a limited funding source that's coming to us from federal lawsuits, and always wanting to make sure that we don't become complacent with those funds and assume that they're always going to be there. So,
or there's a dependency on them.
Exactly. So, but with that being said, I think this is going to be a great program, just as it has been in the last year, and I will move to approve the Oregon City Together grants.
Second. I also want to add that I appreciate being able to be involved in your program to the small amount that I was.
Yes, thank you.
And I look forward to working with you again this next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
If I may, gentlemen, I'd like to call for just a very brief recess about till 9. And then we'll have the dynamic duo coming up. Can't wait for that. No, Jared has to come up too. I'm sorry, he can't get off the hook.
I think I can handle this one.
Well, we know you can. We just want him to come up so we can harass him or say something.
I see.
Yeah, it's not you, Hannah. It's all about Jared.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. My name's Hannah Schmidt. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist for the City of Oregon City, and I have the pleasure of being the staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Commission. I'm here before you tonight because a lot has changed since the Youth Advisory Commission was first established in October of 2022. They had their first meeting in March of 2023, and some things have changed. And something that the Youth Advisory Commission liaisons, myself, as long as with the Commissioners Mayor McGriff and Commissioner Adam Marl, really want to make sure that the Youth Advisory Commission pushes the direction in which the Youth Advisory Commission should go. So some of their practices have changed. Those edits are before you, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Go ahead, Adam.
First of all, thank you. A lot of work has gone into this, trying to make sure that obviously when you have a new group, you never know how it's going to go. And so once you've had some experience seeing how it actually works out in practice, you get to see the areas where it can be improved upon. And so that's what I think we have before us. I just have a couple of suggestions here. So first, for membership, I think I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've talked to a few people about this. I think it would be good for us to open the opportunity for people, for students who do not live within Oregon City city limits, but who attend Oregon City School District schools or schools in Oregon City. I think allowing up to 2 members who fit that category is something that I would like to see. As I've been out and about trying to reach out to students, I hear a lot of students say, oh, I tried to apply, but then it told me I couldn't because I live just a block outside of city limits. And so I know that we have such positions carved out in other advisory boards and even planning commission and some of those other quasi-judicial boards where we have spots reserved up to a certain amount for people who don't live within city limits. And I think that it would be good for us to allow that opportunity. Not saying that it's always going to happen, but allowing for that should that occur.
That on PRAC, it's not on all the...
I didn't say it was on all the boards.
It's just only on a few, yeah. They're non-quasi-judicial though. Any other suggestion?
So yes, under vice chairperson, it should also say that part of the duties of vice chairperson is serving as chair in the chair's absence. Under 2.62.070, item D, I just noticed that YAC or Youth Advisory Commission was capitalized, but it wasn't capitalized there, so just capitalize it there. And item E for that same one, clarifying that the minimum of 1 community event or project to engage the larger Oregon City youth community is per term. So just clarify that. And then on item A under 2.62.070, just wanted to say, so review and prepare strategies addressing issues of interest to students in the greater Oregon City community, including topics such as drug and alcohol abuse, bullying, driver safety, or any other topic determined to be of importance by the Youth Advisory Commission. So those are the suggestions and edits that I have. And then I also just wanted to clarify, so when they adjust and make edits to their bylaws, those do not come before us, correct?
No, I have checked with City Recorder because it's not stated within the city code for their bylaws to be presented to the City Commission. Then those are just automatically approved by the Youth Advisory Commission and then published.
Okay, that was what I thought. My only concern about removing some of these stipulations in the code of conduct is the attendance portion. As you know, we've had issues with attendance and making sure that this is a priority with students and that they're responding to emails and stuff. And that's really what it comes down to, is reminding them that it's happening. And I think just from sitting in on those conversations where there have been comments like, well, we shouldn't have attendance requirements and we should, that's what kind of gives me pause about making that portion a part of the bylaws rather than the ordinance itself, but I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there.
The only thing I'll add to that is that during our meeting, I had to emphasize multiple times because they wanted to make the attendance guidelines more restrictive rather than, and I had to remind them like, okay, if we do want to make this more strict, then also keep in mind that a portion of the Youth Advisory Commissioners who are present on this commission right now would be out of the code of conduct. And I'm not saying that that can't change from commission to commission for the Youth Advisory Commission, but I was very surprised to see that they were wanting to apply stricter guidelines versus what they had previously.
It will be something that I definitely will be asking the students when we do our interviews in another week or two to make sure, and we did ask that question to the ones that we have currently, and I think that maybe our definition of attendance versus their definition of attendance may have varied slightly.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of helping them understand that when they make the commitment to the Youth Advisory Commission, that they are also making a commitment to meet the expectations that they will, I forgot, or, gee, I had to go do this with my family. We don't have an issue. They just have to say that they are going to be excused.
And something I'm looking forward to as well is being able to be the person who can hold the Youth Advisory Commission members accountable and checking in with them if they didn't show up for a meeting, touching base with them, making sure that I have more accountability.
And I think sometimes some of that involves a certain degree of embarrassment.
So
situations.
Going back to the up to 2 members, so I will make a correction of your correction of me, Mayor, because I'm looking at the Planning Commission chapter right now, and it says no more than 2 voting members of the commission shall be non-residents. And so that is in fact a quasi-judicial board where we have non-residents serving. And so that's where I believe I got the up to 2 members who live outside of the city limits, but do attend a school in Oregon City city limits is something that I think would be good.
Well, they definitely have to be attending school in our area. They can't just be some random person, random student. So is that going to make a substantive change to?
Yes. Yeah, it'd probably be better given the quantity of changes to make sure we get it right.
Some of them are just Scrivener's errors too, so.
Yeah, and some are a little bit more, and then there are some other things that we noted that it just makes more sense to pull and bring it back to you next month with fixing these errors.
Well, we have, again, with regard to people outside of the city limits or whatever, we have the option. It doesn't say it's mandatory. So, but if we have some people that are students who go to Oregon City High School or go to a school within our corporate city limits, I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah.
We do have some schools where we have students who live in Oregon City, which they would still be able to apply, but they don't go to a school. So for instance, like LaSalle.
But the inverse is not true currently, which is what I would like to see changed for up to 2 members.
And do we have consensus that we want to add that, and then we would bring this back at our meeting on the 17th? Sure. Okay.
So we're going to leave it at 9, but 2 of them.
No, at least.
At least.
But so we're not changing the at least 9 part. It's not going to be 11 now that we're adding 2 non-residents. It's going to be at least 9, of which 2 may be non-residents
who attend a school within the city limits.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the specific wording that I would support. Yes.
Just one more wording thing. Commissioner Marl caught all the other stuff that I saw, but on 2.62070D, it says community service events per session, and I think it's supposed to be term.
Yeah.
The word session isn't used anywhere else.
Where is that?
070.
Individual members shall attend at least 3 community service per term.
Yeah, thank you.
Term of office is
And I'll send my notes to you guys since we'll be bringing it back to make it easier on you.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to bring that back with those corrections at the next meeting so we can do the first reading. I want to get this underway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Let's move on to item number 9D, which is statement in, hang on, yes. I was reading the one for the transportation funding thing. Item 9D, joint statement of our support of our shared river assets and opportunities. Mr. Conkle.
Thank you. We discussed this at our last commission meeting. And so we made edits to the original joint statement in support of our shared river assets and opportunities that included adding 3 additional pages. First page is agency and government support. The second page is commercial and nonprofit signatory list. And the third page is individuals in support. So those are all separated out. We also received a similar, and both of these are on your dais. The one that has the yellow memorandum of support, quotes our shared river assets and opportunities, unquote, is essentially the providing some of the information. So I wasn't sure which version you wanted to adopt. So you have both in front of you. You have the one that is the yellow with the memorandum. So essentially I took, originally it said instead of we agree, it was whereas, but essentially I took those statements and incorporated them into the letter, the joint statement. So I leave it to you on what you'd like to adopt or move forward.
I prefer our format. I think it looks more professional, and if I was one of these other jurisdictions, that would be more inclined. So.
Yeah, I think the letter is what was intended. I think the other information with the yellow, the packet with the yellow highlight was from Mr. Herman, and I think was intended more for background on how we got here. The only thing I'd say on the letter, the first and second sentences in the last paragraph, the first sentence is actually it's a fragment. It needs to read recognizing whatever, and non-governmental agencies, comma, the government agencies and non-government organizations signing agree to work together. Otherwise, that first sentence is just a sentence fragment.
It's a prepositional phrase which needs to have a subject and a verb.
Well, so I don't know the terms, I just know it's a sentence fragment.
Yes, that's
it
what
needs
it means.
to be
so basically,
one sentence.
If you change the sentence around to say the governmental agencies, blah, 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 either that or you add a subject and a verb because it's too long, even if you put the comma there. It's way too long. It just needs to be 2 separate sentences.
Fine with a comma.
Yeah, I'm not, because it's a prepositional phrase. So to me, you should reverse the government agencies and non-governmental agencies sign this agreement and agree to work together as River Assets and Opportunities Task Force, period. We recognize that maximizing the positive impacts on our communities of the river assets will require blah, 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 blah. So if we add a subject, it makes it a sentence.
How about if we just, instead of recognizing, say, the signees recognize that maximizing the positive impacts on our community.
Yeah, you've got a subject and a verb now.
Original author, I'll go with that, whatever you choose.
Yeah, like I said.
Replace recognizing, my suggestion would be replace the word recognizing with the signees recognize that maximizing.
I support that, but again, I would reverse the sentences and put the one that says the government agencies, because you're saying the signees, and we're not saying who they are, but the second sentence says the government agencies signing makes it make sense by adding the way you phrased it, the signees recognize the maximizing blah, blah, blah. It just flows better. And we do have somebody that wants to make comment, so yes, so if I will, Bob LaSalle, wanted to talk on, make a comment on 9D. Before you get started, just get the mic over to your mouth. Just move it over. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Bob LaSalle, and I live in Oregon City. I've read this letter over in detail, and I think it's been talked to death. I think it's time to make a decision. I can't see any detrimental issues involved with it. In the past, the city commission, not you particularly, but others have lost opportunities to use river assets. For example, PT boat, LST issues, some stern wheeler opportunities in the past. I can see no negative issues in signing this document. I can only see positive results from it, so I would encourage that you get this finished and get this letter signed and get to business. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, do we have a motion?
We have agreement on what we're doing, so.
Well, that's where all I'm asking is to switch two sentences so that it makes,
okay with switching
it makes better sense.
Or do we want to start with the signees recognize that maximizing the positive impacts to our communities of this river assets will require the coordination and cooperation of multiple government and non-governmental agencies, period. The government agencies and non-government organizations sign this statement, agree to work together as a river assets and opportunities task force. Or do we want to switch those two sentences? I think is what we're back down to.
I didn't make a big stink about it, but the whole paragraph this paragraph is fine. It's just the way that it puts the purpose at the end. Anyway, I will be, yeah, so let's just approve it and
I'll make a motion to...
Get the sentences corrected.
I'll make a motion to approve this letter, changing the word recognizing to the signees recognize, and leaving the last paragraph the way it is.
Seconded for the purpose.
I just want to switch the two sentences. If you have any objection to, I will sign it with the two sentences switched. I don't want to sign it. It just doesn't read right.
It's okay.
Yes. I'm definitely not doing that.
Did you make a motion?
Yes, you did. You did.
Your mic.
Did second the motion, so let's have the roll call.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith, Mayor Denise McGriff.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
I'm going to get him to switch.
No, you're not.
That's okay. I had my mic off. All right, so let's move on to 9E, Joint Values and Outcomes for 2025 Transportation Funding in Clackamas County. So this is something that came out of this C4 retreat. And who's leading off on that is you again, Mr. Conkle?
Yeah, I didn't write this one.
I know you didn't.
Okay.
Give us a moment to critique it.
That's okay. I made some copious notes.
We're going to diagram the first sentence.
My
English teacher is
my
watching.
breakdown of sentence structure is not the best.
Sentences in Catholic school, I got it.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Marl or Commissioner Mitchell, you were at the C4 retreat, so we were asked. So the C4 retreat happened. A lot of great discussion. My understanding coming out of that was trying to create a joint values and outcomes in preparation for the 2025 state legislative transportation package. Staff at the county who manages C4 in coordination with the members who were there were asked to take this back to their respective commissions and councils to have a discussion to see if these are reflective and supported by the commission, or if there are concerns or changes to bring those forward so that they can be discussed at the next C4 meeting. And since you were there, you could better more info than I can.
I'll just add for background, so the legislature heading into 2025, they are hoping to pass a very large transportation package and a funding source for ODOT that makes a little bit more sense. Hopefully that doesn't include tolling on I-205. And so we thought that it was important for us as C4 to get together, just like we did when we were responding to the threat of tolling, to have a shared set of values that we could clearly communicate to our legislators about what it is we would like to see from a transportation package. And so that's what you see before you right now. And I will just say that the amount of editing and Scribner's notes that were made during that meeting is puts things in perspective, I'll just say. So there was a lot of work that went into this by county staff, and I think that it's reflected in that document.
Would you like to add something, Commissioner Mitchell?
Yeah, as Commissioner Morrow said, that for a group of cities who typically look out for themselves, cities and other agencies to come together like they did on the tolling document with the united set of principles. And now here comes the same thing again. Did the last one make a difference? Hopefully, you know, the end result was good. Tolling is at least on a pause. And so that's the intention with this one is to speak as a unified voice rather than look out for each other. And I think one of the main things, just so everybody is aware to, that could be really damaging is one of the things that appears to be possibly open for discussion is the 50-30-20 split on gas tax revenues, which of course would be devastating for cities if that 20% got cut. So for us to all hang together on a document like this is very helpful.
And I will just say one more thing, that I think we all know that among the 3 metro counties, it's Clackamas County that generally gets the short end of the stick. And so I think that's even more reason for us to be united in messaging and what we'd like to see when it comes to these investments in our transportation system, and making sure that Clackamas County gets its fair share of investments.
Go ahead.
I'm ready for a motion.
I guess one of my concerns about it is that I do appreciate the fact that when I talked to Commissioner Savas, that the first principle here has to deal with collaboration with local voices and jurisdictions, because that was lacking in the last one. What I do have a concern about is it says protect and retain the 50-30-20. Well, how does that apply? I realize that that's important, but remember the county almost tried to put the kibosh on the county gas tax, of which we get a portion of that and helps pay for our maintenance. So I don't want that to be left out of it either. So was there any discussion about the tax that we have right now that's on the license fee, that a portion of that goes to Oregon City and the other cities? There was definitely a move afoot by the county.
You're talking the vehicle registration fee.
Yeah, they were talking about getting rid of that.
I don't think that came up.
There wasn't any discussion on that.
Okay, well, again, that's a source of revenue for us and the other jurisdictions, so it's just not mentioned. So
but I mean, what we're talking about, though, remember, is about state legislative things as opposed to county funding sources.
So, and then the other thing I noted was that everything in this document is fairly general and it is applicable to everybody. And then I noticed it says formulate a list of secondary projects for future funding, including the Sunrise Corridor. So why did that get specifically called out? I know that's one of their pet projects. It doesn't happen to be one of my personal pet projects, but everything else in here is fairly generic. Why is that being called out? Any speculation?
I know that, personally speaking, I know that this is a big priority of Commissioner Savas. So I think that may have played a role in that, but I can't tell you exactly why that one was put in. I know that the county is going through the revisioning process for that, and that it's one of their big, not just transportation, but economic development plans that they would like to see move forward. But as to why it's there, I can't say for certain.
I just wrote a comment on the side. I said, this seems very specific. Is it necessary when we're saying formulate a list of secondary projects for future funding? I thought that was already on some list somewhere, because the county's been doing nothing but talking about that for the last 10 years. So that's just a concern, that seems, again, it isn't calling anything out anywhere else besides that. So is there any further discussion, or is there a motion? I'm willing to support approving this, but we have to ask that question. So that can be as yeah.
I will move to approve the joint values and outcomes for 2025 transportation funding in Clackamas County.
Second.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
I agree with the mayor's comments, but I'll say aye for the purpose of moving it along.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
So could you add that little comment on there? Just
I put, yeah.
We'd like some, we'd like the
As
answer
a
to that
question to Trent.
Okay, let's move on to, excuse me, hang on here. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is item 9F, McLaughlin Promenade Encroachments License Agreement, Liability Insurance and Indemnity Clause. And I will turn this over to Mr. Conkle and to Mr. Geisman.
All right, thank you. So we've been working on how to address the pre-existing encroachments that are into public property along the McLaughlin Promenade with the ultimate goal of allowing those to continue in their current state without expanding, while also allowing the city the opportunity to designate that area as a charter park. During our last meeting, there was some discussion about what do we do concerning liability. So if private use of public property, something happens, how do you minimize the risk and liability to the city and the public taxpayers? And so in between the meeting and the current meeting tonight, we did reach out and talked with Farmers Insurance about additional liability coverage options and what that might look like. Generally speaking, if you have homeowners insurance and your stairs are into the McLaughlin Promenade, somebody trips and falls on the stairs as they're in the promenade, your homeowner's insurance is likely going to cover that. So if you have stairs, they come into the McLaughlin Promenade, someone's walking down your stairs, they trip and fall on the portion of the stairs on the McLaughlin Promenade, your homeowner's insurance is most likely going to cover that under your existing policy. Is the city going to get sued? Maybe. Will we be liable? It depends. So there are a couple options, right? One was remove everything. There wasn't a desire to do that, right? That's the best way to reduce the risk. The second was to have the encroachment properties name the city as an insurer covered under their insurance. I don't know that completely takes away the risk that we wouldn't be sued. Another example is we do right-of-way encroachments. So a fence is in the public right-of-way. We give them either a permanent or a temporary easement. We have them sign a liability, hold harmless waiver. We don't make them add the city to their insurance policy in that case. In many ways, this seems similar to that. So the one option would be strengthen the indemnity clause as part of the license agreement, similar to how we do a right-of-way easement encroachment. Other ideas, I don't know what other ideas would be. Not take any further actions, just sign the license agreement. Many of these encroachments have been there for decades. They exist throughout the city in different forms. So I think, generally speaking, most of the agreement, we seem to have consensus about how we were identifying, how we were documenting. And really it came down to, what level of risk and in what form do we move forward, asking the property owner that's encroaching into the public realm in order to keep that encroachment and acknowledge it. Happy to answer any questions.
I appreciate the research that staff did, and I also contacted my homeowner's insurance agent, asked basically the question, and what I found out from them, they're here in Oregon City, is that if I had a simple indemnity clause in my homeowner's insurance, that would cover anything like this, and I think that that is probably the most reasonable way to go in terms of getting some assurance. I don't think that so that's the option number 3. I think that's causes the least amount of grief with everyone in terms of the city's requirements. Again, anybody who's thinking of suing is going to sue anyway. They're going to look for anybody and everybody that they can try to attach to it. That's pretty typical. But I think it's reasonable to just ask for a simple indemnity clause. I think at the time when I was not a homeowner, I did also carry personally renter's insurance, which was just, was my insurance agent says just a smart thing to do. I know not everybody does that, but we're looking towards the property owner, but I know some of those buildings are they're rentals.
We would predominantly be looking to the property owner.
Yeah, as the property owner. So that would be, that's just my take on it and having looked at that. I've been involved in other situations where I did have an event or something where I had to indemnify a property or an agency or something, but it was like a one-day rider and cost me maybe $50, but we're not talking about that. That's a specific situation. So I think that your option number 3 is the reasonable way to go.
Option 3 of all of them, I think you talked about the property itself, if that's the person's staircase, that's pretty specific, but what if they created obstruction in the right of way, and that obstruction is the cause of the injury? That's why I like a very specific indemnity clause that protects us. It essentially says, you're being allowed usage of this, but if anything you do to create that creates that problem, then that's yours.
So kind of have an indemnity clause like number 3, but strengthen the language.
Yeah, strengthen the language.
Okay.
Wouldn't that depend on each individual situation? Because that's not going to apply to everybody.
Well,
Bill can write a long paragraph.
It's a general statement.
Generally,
compound conflict senses and run-on senses.
Yes, that's right, those prepositional phrases.
and Mayor,
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if in fact you said it may not apply to everybody because they may not have that situation, if that's the case, then it doesn't apply. It's just if they do create that potential situation, then
that makes
that's
sense.
a problem.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Yeah, because I think we're looking at these on a specific site situation, not the document's going to be crafted so it applies to that particular situation.
We might make the indemnity a little bit more broad, just so it can be consistent. And the other part of this is to document and kind of acknowledge what's there today to prevent an expansion or increase. So hopefully we're not going to see things that we're not seeing today happening there. So, really it's to try to freeze and acknowledge, but then also avoid any additional encroachments moving forward.
Do aerial photographs of everything. That would be a starting point of documentation.
That's the starting point, and then you have to do the visual.
I know, but if as of this date, when this document was signed, this was the current state.
So we're trying to do that through picture and
Yeah.
written description.
Sometimes with some of our vegetation that's there, you can't quite see with the camera or the drone, so you have to kind of go look at it.
Yeah, I agree on that indemnity clause. It seems to be the way to go. I hate to see us, I wouldn't want to see us ask people to have to spend extra money to raise their insurance limits or whatever, especially with the way the insurance market is right now. You kind of want to just keep your head down and not talk to your agent about raising your coverage, because who knows what that might end up costing you. You might not have coverage after you're done. So, yeah, I agree with the indemnity clause.
Yeah, I was very clear that I was not adding this to my policy. I said I need your expertise. So, anything, Rocky?
No, I agree.
Jim, you wanted to make some comments? And while you're coming up, congratulations again on your article in the Oregon Historical Quarterly.
Thank you. James Nissi. Since the commission seems to be moving away from the idea of requiring, I'll skip my comments on that topic. But I did have a couple of.
Jim, we can't really hear you. Yeah, there you go.
The curse of a soft voice.
I know.
Now it's too loud. I did have a couple of questions. First, I still don't understand why this process is a prerequisite to being able to pass an ordinance to make the promenade a charter park. The charter provision, if the ordinance is passed and it becomes a charter park, it prevents the city from selling property without a citywide vote. That's it. I don't see anything in the charter that relates remotely to what the city is asking or attempting to burden the property owners with now. Second question is, why is this being directed specifically at the McLaughlin property owners? A couple years ago, the city went through a very lengthy process with encroachments in Kenema in the right-of-way. As far as I know, the city never pursued any of these similar measures to the property owners in Kenema. It was mentioned by the city manager that these types of encroachments exist citywide, so why not formulate a citywide policy so that we don't feel that we are being singled out and needlessly, or an ill-defined requirement to a prerequisite to making McLaughlin a charter park, which I don't understand. I just don't see the legal ramifications or the implication for having that be a requirement that get all of these license agreements where you're able to create a charter park out of the McLaughlin Promenade. I think I have one or two other questions, but I can't remember what they are, so I will forego those.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to answer that because we have asked that question?
Sure. So what's going on is that, we want to designate the commission wants to designate the McLaughlin Promenade as a charter park. What the charter prevents, the commission may not do any of the following listed acts with regard to any designated city park or park thereof without first obtaining approval of the legal voters. One is sell, lease, or otherwise transfer park property. B is vacate or otherwise change the legal status of any park. And it's that, the intent is, once it's a park, we don't want anything to happen to anything that's designated park. This is essentially an attempt to avoid disputes further down the line where we have specifically identified, okay, this is an encroachment that exists at the top prior to designation, so that there's not some determination later that, something happened after the fact. We want to identify everything that can conceivably be a argument about what could or couldn't be transferred or a change in legal status. And so that's a recommendation that we bring to you is, let's identify them, document them, and that way we have it prior to designation.
That's kind of what we came to the conclusion of. Nobody is being singled out. We have encroachments all over the city in different areas in terms of right-of-ways, and we've been getting to those. We will be getting to the issue in Kenema as well. We know that it's a little more complicated than this is, and we had a survey that was already completed for the promenade, which made it really easy to figure out what was there and what wasn't. I think that if we designated the charter park without dealing with this, that to me puts a significant burden on anybody who has properties there, because it basically says, whatever you were doing, it's gone. There's no exception, there's no anything. So this was an attempt to try to acknowledge what's already there, that buildings were built through no fault of anybody that's there. And I would say that knowing on a couple of the properties, because I know a couple of people personally who sold, they were aware that where their property lines were before the survey, and they knew this portion of their property was encroaching in the promenade. There's, most of the people kind of know that. Not everybody is aware of that, and each one of these will be treated very respectfully on a case-by-case basis on what's going on with each of those properties. So I can assure you that no one is being picked on. So we don't have anybody else that wants to say anything. Does anybody else want to say anything? Nope. Your chance, I'm giving you the opportunity. Nope. Okay. So commissioners, do you have, we have a couple people that support option 3. We have consensus for option 3 all the way across the line. Okay, looks like it. All right, so let's have a motion.
I'll move to authorize the city manager to initiate and complete the process of executing license agreements with property owners who are encroaching on the McGrath Promenade, requiring an indemnity clause only.
Second.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So under our next item is item, where did I just lose this? So we have communications. City manager.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, I have 2 items under mine, but we'll go to commissioners first. Sir.
So first, I just want to give a huge shout out to our Parks and Rec department for their work in putting on the Independence Day celebration. The turnout far exceeded what I was expecting, and it's always difficult when you do the first of something, of anything, and I think they really proved just the amount of talent that we have in that department, especially given the funding constraints that we have. And so I really want to give a shout out to them. When I brought up the concept of doing that, that is exactly what I envisioned us doing, and so I'm very grateful to them. And I also want to bring up something that I brought up at the last commission meeting, which is, again, I think we ought to look into the possibility of having a liaison to the Homeless Solution Coalition of Clackamas County, a non-voting liaison who is able to just keep the rest of us appraised of what's going on, because the work that they're doing to try and do that resource center or whatever it is of great importance to all of us. And I think having someone who can easily relay our questions and concerns in the moment rather than just coming to us every once in a while would be of great value to us. It's not something that I think that I can currently put on my plate, but I think if anybody is willing to do that, and if there's an appetite to do so, that it would be helpful for us to do that.
Let's put that on a work session item, and I can talk to Brandy. I'm already sort of meeting with them quarterly because of the shelter advisory committee that we have, and we have another meeting that's going to be scheduled probably September to talk about how we've been going through this heat dome issue. We've had some complaints, and they've been able to work them out.
But this would be separate from that. This would not be shelter related. This would be related to the Homeless Solutions Board itself. And I think.
So let's put this on a work session agenda item, and then we can have a discussion with them about that. I don't have any issue with that. I think it's a good item to talk about. Mr. Smith.
I'm going to wait to make my report. We had a CHP meeting and Clackamas Heritage Partners meeting and the Oregon Trail meeting. But I'll wait for the next meeting to make that report because we'll have longer space then.
Okay. O'Donnell.
You know, the hour grows late, and what I want to do is more informational for the people of the city. Maybe I'll do it a second time, but I'm going to tell you, I want to tell something, and there's no audience here tonight, but maybe the social media people will pick this up. And it's because of a personal experience. You know, we have Willamette Falls Medical Center, our hospital here, and the people that work there are wonderful, but that hospital is not a full-service hospital, and it has no cardiac unit, much like others that do. And we, as a community, have 37,000 people, of which a third of them are over 50. And I can tell you from both personal and family experience that, and from talking to doctors, that if you have a cardiac event, the first 90 minutes are critical. And you have to be transported to the closest full-service hospital, which happens to be Kaiser Sunnyside. And that which you will suffer could be irreparable. So I'm hoping that the social media people pick this up, because all we can do here is stabilize you and prevent and provide pain relief. And again, it's not a criticism of those people, because they're wonderful, but this community deserves more than that. And I'm hoping that social media picks it up and pushes hard. And I know it's an expense, and it doesn't generate revenue like a cancer center does, but it's the #1 cause of death in America. We're a large community with a surrounding larger county community that does not need to be traveling multiple miles to get when they need immediate help. The other things are, I'm hoping that with this hot weather, we're monitoring the cove, and I hope that we're conducting that study, because that's important. I think there's work to be done there, and I know we don't want to talk about dredging, but maybe we can do some channel improvement of a minor nature of a couple feet to increase the flow, because I think it would be helpful. And then the least popular thing I'm going to bring about tonight is, man, I would love for this city to be the last city in the area to control fireworks better than they do. And I've got no objection to the groundworks and the minor works, but the blast and the bombs and the airborne, and those people who have pets that have to sedate, maybe sedate themselves. And on occasion, I even know a few veterans that just hate that night because it brings back PTSD memories. So I know nothing happens up here without a consensus of the group, but I'd ask my fellow commissioners to think about it and come back and decide what we want to do, if anything. And that's it. Thanks.
Well, I concur with your comment. I think it's something that we need to have a discussion about, and I think that we can get some great information from Clackamas Fire and also our police department, and probably we have jurisdictional partners that have already discussed this issue. I received a number of emails just before the 4th of July regarding all of the things that you talked about. Particularly, I was empathetic with a couple of people who I know were veterans who basically felt that they had to leave town to go somewhere else that they knew there weren't going to be. I don't know where they went, but they were not here. So I feel empathetic about that. I want to also support Commissioner Morrow's statement about park staff. I said it on Mayor's Monday, on Monday. I think we need to look at, if we're going to continue to do this, we need to have a funding allocation for it in terms of budget so that it's not a scramble. And I think it was well received, and I, again, exceeded my expectations as well. It was, I believe that the turnout was equal to or even exceeded our 175th, where we had the same type of laser light show that the community enjoyed, and there was not, it was enjoyable for everyone, and I know I enjoyed that. How many years ago did we do that? It was our 175th birthday. We did it at the Trail Center. All right, do the math.
I can't do the math that quick.
What year was it?
44,
What?
1844, so
29, yeah, 29, yeah, I was gonna say 2019 or 2018, but it was great. What I want to do is get your concurrence on the appointments to the Citizen Involvement Committee for Gaffney Lane. I did attend that meeting along with Commissioner Morrow, and we were able to witness the recommendations and the vote, so I'm just concurring with what they approved. If I can get your consensus on that.
Certainly.
And then under item B, mayoral appointment of diversity, equity, inclusion community task force members. I was really pleased to see that we had a number of our community members who wanted to continue the discussion. And we have several people that were recruited and then agreed to serve, and also a couple of people one person who just recently applied. And I reviewed all of those folks with our HR director, Mr. Foyles. And so I'd like to get consensus on the appointment to those folks. I believe they've got a meeting scheduled for, is it tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow, yes. So I've got thumbs up from everybody on that? Yep. Okay, thank you. And then last but not least, I want to, before I adjourn, because we're going to do it before 10 o'clock, is I want to thank our library staff, we had an amazing turnout given the crappy weather we had on June 15th. We've had a number of community members who asked for the Everybody Reads program to be continued to have a discussion group. And I said I thought that would be great, and the library staff is very supportive of it. However, I want to encourage people who may not have felt that they were able to participate, because what we need to have for that discussion is we need to have all the voices. And so I think that if we know of people who you think might be interested, let staff know, and we will try to see if we can engage them, because it's only really through conversation with people that we can move this community forward. And that's all for this evening. So being no further business, you have anything, Chief? Mr. Lewis, you got your backpack on already? I'll move that we adjourn. So we're adjourned. Thank you.